Criminality runs through every sector of the government. There are none that are excluded, and this time we have the government caught creating yet another computer virus. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. This is out of the Financial Times talking about a cyber snooping operation reminiscent of the Stuxnet worm. Now, the Stuxnet I'll get into in a moment, but let's just look at this one today, the brand new information. It is billed as the world's most sophisticated computer malware that's targeting both Russian and Saudi telecom companies. And you know that company Symantec, they said that this is actually being run by Western intelligence agencies, and they are saying that's even more advanced than the Stuxnet. So this right here I'd like to discuss just for a moment before getting into Stuxnet, talking about how we had traditional warfare back in the day. We had two sides clearly bombing or shooting each other, and it was very clear who the different sides were. We could see it visually, and unfortunately the pain was felt on either side. But now today, we don't have these dictators as very clear as they once were. They use their propaganda systems, the mainstream media, and they cover it all up. And right now, we're seeing other types of warfare. And right here, we are seeing cyber war. This is the future of the warfare. We're seeing biological warfare and now cyber warfare. So let's get into Stuxnet just for a moment here. This was actually developed by U.S. and Israeli government to attack or find out some information about the Iranian nuclear program. Again, they didn't have to just bomb the nuclear sites, which of course they did, but they did not have to necessarily just do that. They were attacking them using cyber warfare. Pretty interesting the way that they do this. So let's get further on into this. The article out of the New York Times, Israeli test on worm called crucial in Iran nuclear delay. See, they're actually taking credit for what happened here, and this is the Dimona complex, and essentially that's where they keep all of their nuclear weapons in Israel, but they will never admit to having them, of course, even though it is reported that they have a minimum of hundreds of nuclear weapons right there, and that is a directly responsible from the U.S. government giving their foreign aid, quote unquote, which allows them to build all these weapons of mass destruction, as they like to be called. But more importantly, in this complex, this is where they developed the Stuxnet worm, and again, using more money from the Western allies. And this allowed them to do this where they were able to attack the Iranian nuclear program using cyber warfare. This is pretty amazing how this works. And this connects directly in to what I wrote in my book. Israel has publicly stated that, quote, if Iran continues with this program for developing nuclear weapons, we will attack it. The sanctions are ineffective. And it said this, attacking Iran in order to stop its nuclear plans will be unavoidable. I mean, that is just crazy to hear something like that. It doesn't make a single ounce of sense. And now, right now, we are hearing in the media once again more rhetoric calling for an attack on Iran to stop them from building a singular nuclear weapon. And this is, of course, a response to Israel, who has hundreds upon hundreds of them. It is quite fraudulent to know what they're doing when you really just spend a few minutes looking at the details. This right here, Google's secret NSA alliance, the terrifying deals between Silicon Valley and the security state. This is out of Salon, but of course you can find this information anywhere, and it goes into how deep Google and the NSA really are. They actually developed and worked together on the PRISM software that Edward Snowden talked a lot about, and in fact Edward Snowden actually also confirmed the data that the Stuxnet worm was in fact created by U.S. and Israeli intelligence. And then, of course, it says here in the subtitle, inside the high-level complicated deals and the rise of a virtually unchecked surveillance power. They're able to do whatever they want. Google, if you think about Google in such a way where you are searching online to get information, it actually works the other way around. You are inputting data into Google based on your searches, based on your clicks, on your habits, and we give them our information. That's the way this has worked. And then they use things like like PRISM against us. And that is quite unfortunate. And it is our tax dollars that are doing that. I'll get into the tax dollars in a moment here. I just wanted to also connect into this. Ottawa to spend $200 million on mental health for the military. This is, Canadian news here, but we're talking about this all around the world where we, in fact, use our military, use our vast budget for all this killing and all this death, and then our troops come home and they are rattled by everything that has happened there. They know the criminality of government once they've been out there, but they are set in some sort of trap and they are found back onto the battlefield time after time after time, and this puts a big trauma on them. And of course, they are now setting up and gearing up for additional problems. And that's what's happening right here in this article. And this connects in with this. This is out of The Independent. Heroin to be prescribed to Canadian addicts by doctors. We have a medical state, we have big pharma, and we have them in control of our system, directly in collusion with the government. And here they are actually going to prescribe heroin to patients under certain circumstances, of course, not just for anyone, but it goes to show you how far they are willing to go at this. Let's get on here. Medical wait times up to 3 times longer in Canada out of the CBC. The medical establishment isn't doing its job. It isn't working. It's the same for the government, the military-industrial complex. They're not defense. They are out there attacking. That's the way this works. They call it in the US the Department of Defense. But that was just the Department of War they renamed. And you know what Edward Bernays talked about and everything. I won't get into that in here. But what I just wanted to show you was that in every sector of the government, we have a collusion in with big business and corporations. We have people struggling out there, and instead the money is being given to attack other countries using cyber warfare, biological warfare, currency warfare, and of course directly attacking them in hot wars. And this is, yet again, where we have the FBI covering up, not only covering up, but actually taking part in Oklahoma City. If you haven't watched A Noble Lie, I personally bought the DVD because it was so incredible. I knew it would be. I watched it multiple times, and it is incredible, showing you how obvious the Oklahoma City bombing was to show you the collusion that occurred here. The FBI was directly responsible. This right here is Terrence Yeakey. Here he was saving 8 people's lives that day, and then apparently committed suicide. I'll just read you just this brief part here. He supposedly killed himself. He was said to have slit his wrists and his neck, causing him to nearly bleed to death in his car, then miraculously climbed over a barbed wire fence. Then he was purported to have walked 1.25 mile distance through a nearby field, eventually shooting himself in the side of the head at an unusual angle. Right there, you know, if this was in a movie, you would say this is the fakest movie that ever existed. This is terrible. 1 star. But of course, it continues on. Startlingly, no weapon was found at the scene of the body, no investigation was conducted, no fingerprints taken, and no interviews with family members or friends were conducted to try to determine why Yeakey would have been suicidal, or if he had in fact been suicidal at all. And right here, immediately, right there, they said there was no autopsy. It was deemed a suicide. This is when you know you have government criminality that has taken over every sector of the government. It is impossible to deny. And then we get into this. This is how they're able to go on with their schemes. This is out of the Business Insider. Leaked black budget shows how the CIA progressed from a spy agency to a paramilitary force. I'm not going to get into the details of the article, but I just wanted to show you we have black budgets in our government structure. We have them colluding in with big business, and we know how they do deals behind the scenes with other countries. There is always presidents and prime ministers engaged, signing deals. We saw that in North America only a few years ago, that leaked information, how they signed deals with the other presidents and prime ministers, and they are in effect giving over our sovereignty. We did not vote on these things. Nobody voted on the European Union. Nobody wants the European Union, but of course it just passes. That's the way this works. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to become an insider. The Insiders is where I give out all my best intel for free, and that is available at themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.